whole time is going to be about, how can I say it, nitty-gritty writing stuff. We're going to do some stuff on what to look at in your audience, because I'm going to talk about mainly writing dissertations, but that's not that different from a master's thesis in any way. The same kind of rules apply. So if you are in the middle, or no, you're not, I know none of you are, a lot of you aren't in the middle, you're going to just be starting. So we're just going to deal with some real, we call them lower order issues, but they can become higher order issues if your audience can't understand a sentence because of these kinds of things that we're going to talk about in paragraphing. Okay? So have some paper and pencil ready, because towards the end you're actually going to be grappling with some sentences and things like that in a paragraph. All right? This is something that is really important. It's something that I talked about last time. And this is how I put dissertation reader awareness. I could easily have put thesis reader awareness. It's the same, all right? Who are my readers? You can go into audience analysis mode and you can ask all kinds of questions about your readers. What is their attitude? What is their value system? How are they going? Sometimes you'll get a reader on your committees that just absolutely looks at nothing but whether you have the comma in the right place and the sentence is just very formal and, you know, like that. And other professors don't look at that as much as they look at your idea development. Okay, higher order issues are more the idea development. The point is, pay attention to who your reader is, who's your committee, who's your chair, what do they expect? What I would do is always do this time that you have got. How many years do you have left after 7 years?
I hope next
Okay, have you started your dissertation?
Yes.
Okay, you're way into it, right? All right, doesn't matter. Start a journal and start writing down your thoughts, because you're going to have interviews with your chairs and you're going to have interviews with the committees, and you're going to want to identify what comes to you as you talk to these people through the years. Some of you are first year, you need to be doing this. You need to be knowing who these people are that have your degree in their hand. Okay? So, what do readers already know and not know about my topic? How much do I have to tell them? And always in the kind of field that you are in, it doesn't matter what field, it's kind of nice to have a unique research that you're doing, a unique topic, something maybe that your committee doesn't know yet. Okay? You're going to find something in your research or something in your work of writing where you might come up with a surprise that will be of great interest to your readers. Those are the kinds of things you want to think about when you're thinking about your readers. What's their occupation and position? Do I want to, how will their characteristics influence how they take your writing? How will they look at your writing? You have to know your readers in order to answer that or to even deal with it in your writing. Okay, so the occupation and position in a professional community and the investment and prior work in my topic, you know, that makes a big difference. In other words, what I'm telling you is identify your readers in a nutshell. Maybe you'll have readers outside the academy. Maybe you'll have readers, the business MBAs might have readers on your committee or something that are somewhere in business, okay? So that's an audience identification. So that's more of a large, holistic issue, right? So we're going to bring it down immediately to something that is very specific. And what can I say? I want to always say lower order issue, but this really isn't. It's higher than that. Paragraphing. Does anybody have trouble, or has anybody ever told you in your writing that you really need to fix your paragraphs? Have you ever had anybody tell you what a paragraph in English is all about? Did you ever study that at all? Shake your head. No? Yes? Okay. Well, the paragraph has to be well developed. It should have a topic sentence. Okay? It should have a point to it. And it should have one topic per paragraph. In other words, in a paragraph, you don't take in a whole bunch of topics. Just like, in other words, throw information out. Just another new general topic, another new general statement, another general statement, another general statement. You have a general statement about what that paragraph is about, and then you get more specific and more specific about that topic. Okay? They are unified. That's what I was just saying. They are coherent, which means that they flow into one another, which also means that the sentences within the paragraphs connect with one another. And that means that you're going to be learning, or I'm sure you already have had many incidences with transitions. Does everybody know what a transition would be? Therefore is a transition. That is a cause and effect transition. Think of a sentence with therefore, where it connects. It connects two thoughts, that's what a transition does.
I'm working on my dissertation proposal, therefore I'm here.
I'm working on my dissertation proposal, therefore I am here. Okay? How about a contrasting, where you change thoughts? Yes. However, on the other hand, in contrast. The big thing to know though is that you don't use these transitions just to throw them in because you know they're academic. Okay, we use them in academia more than, or we're more conscious of them, I should say, in academia. So be careful of just throwing. I have students all the time who throw a therefore or a but or an and or a something, and there's no reason for it, but you put them in there. Don't do that. And you'll be very tempted because these are very academic papers you're writing here. Okay? So remember, topic sentence, one topic, and that one topic, don't forget, always has to do with the thesis of your paper, the point of your paper. You have one general point, and you describe it related to different topics about it. We're going to do actual paragraph work here. But that is some real basic stuff about paragraphs. Here's what a lot of people don't do. They don't eliminate. Have you ever had the feeling that the more you write, the better your reader will like it? Because you will sound like you really know what you're saying. A lot of writers do that. But often the opposite is true. Taking out stuff. Because we tend to repeat. Because we have such wonderful thoughts. And we want so hard to get it across. You know? And so we will repeat the same thing, only in a different way. So take it out. If it means a whole lot to you and you said something totally brilliant, always have a separate Word document open if that's what you're working in, all right? And copy and paste that part you just love, but you know it doesn't belong here in the paper that you're going to be giving to someone. Put it in a saved but not used doc. I have bunches of those. And when you go back, you never know where you might actually use something like that. So don't be afraid to eliminate, although writing is such a personal act that it's hard for us. It's like tearing a piece. However, if the relationship between the main idea and other details in the paragraph is unclear, then you have to add a phrase or sentence and relate them. We're back to transitions now, probably. Okay? If more than one major idea appears in a paragraph, separate the ideas and have them in different paragraphs. That's what I just said about only one topic per paragraph. Okay? If you want to convey more than one idea in a single paragraph, rewrite your topic sentence to say so to prepare your reader, and I'm going to show you an example of that. Before we go on with, getting into the papers, I forgot I was gonna start with what I handed out to you. This is a very, very basic outline. I've had, a lot of grad students say they want help with an outline. Okay, you have to outline your dissertation, okay, or outline your proposal or whatever. This is basic now. If you go into outlining a dissertation, excuse me, or outlining a proposal or something on the web and Google, you will get 500,000 hits. There's so many ways to do it, okay? But this is basic. If you have a main heading like this, okay, and a capital A, so to speak, then you must have you have to have at least two. So there'd be an A and a B. In this case, of course, you have long outlines, so there'd be A, B, C, D, E, F. That's your main heading, okay? Then if you have a subheading, which is usually gonna take the form of a one, you have to have a 1 and a 2 or more. You never have just one subheading. If you have just one, that probably means you don't need it at all. It needs to be broken up more. So I just kind of played with this, you know, I made little subheadings, and I made 1, 2, ABC of the 1, 2, third level in, they have levels. General level 1, sub-level 2, sub-level 3, that's usually all you need. Questions, does that make sense?
I have a question. Do you find yourself, since you say you want more than two, what do you call them, subheadings? Do you ever find yourself having to break those up into different paragraphs? Or
Oh, sure, one heading might be 5 paragraphs.
Okay.
Yeah, those headings are just to tell you what specifically that area is gonna be about. Yeah, that's a good question. You might want to, see, that's up to you. You might wanna outline, in your outline, according to paragraph topics. Right in your outline. And that's be very valuable, because you would know what each paragraph's gonna be about. And then your main heading, of course, would be what that whole general section's about. So, yeah, I wanna emphasize that this is a general, basic layout. This is not, they change with discipline, they change with schools. Some universities, I shouldn't say universities, some departments in universities ask for specific things in the outline. Just make sure you're clear on that. Ask your committee or your advisor, or whatever, what is expected. But when you do an outline, be sure that you don't do less than 2 subheadings of anything. You can have 5 to 100, but not less than 2. That's just got a general rule, and it makes total sense. Because otherwise your outline would be, you wouldn't need an outline. Yeah.
I have a question, but not relates to this handout, for the final point in the slide, right?
Good.
So if you say, if I have more than one idea in one single paragraph, is it contrary to the idea that each paragraph should develop only one idea?
It is, unless your topic sentence warns your reader that that's what you're doing.
Because, well, it just confuses me, because I learned that each paragraph just develops one idea, and then, different information and details and things like that to support that major idea and to connect all those kind of details. But here, if we have more than one idea in a paragraph, it may confuse the reader.
It would, unless you prepare your reader. And it's probably not gonna be any more than 2. I'm gonna show you an example.
I really want to see how can we write the topic sentence that include 2 ideas.
Yeah, we're gonna do a couple paragraphs, okay? Okay, of the 3 concerns, coherence usually produces the most problems for readers and writers. To understand how to revise for coherence, understand that it results from, number one, now this is gonna help you get the idea of remaining in one topic, in paragraph. Moving old, familiar information to new information, which means you state something in your paragraph. Somebody state something that a paragraph's going to be about. You know, you're giving information in a paper. Let's see, who's, Tony, what's your position, or is your name Tony?
Yeah.
What's your discipline?
English ed?
English ed.
Yeah.
Okay. You were going to write, can I pick a literary figure, if you have to do a lot of that? If you were going to write a paper about Jane Austen, how's that? Okay, and your main topic of the whole paper is, what could be a topic about Jane Austen? So many of them.
I can't figure out with that figure. Let's take Mark Twain. Yeah, that's
Okay,
kind of
Mark
famous
Twain.
one, yeah.
Okay, let's write a paper on Mark Twain. What's
Yeah.
gonna be our main point?
Contributions to American literature.
Well, that's a little general, but we'll just use that, okay. Mark Twain has made, let's get fancy with it. Mark Twain has made very important contributions to American literature. That's after he has an introductory paragraph and he ends it with that. That's his point, that's his position. I would say, have to say, what's the purpose of saying that, but we have to get some purpose for it. It's important that people know that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, his first paragraph could be a myriad of things. But say you have, as your first paragraph under the intro, something about a particular piece that he wrote, okay? For instance,
The Adventure of Tom Sawyer.
for instance, Twain's Adventures of Tom Sawyer has,
Depicts life.
no, we have to say what it does because we said it's really important.
Okay.
Important contribution. It has, I'm gonna say something kind of out of the, kind of, grand, but, has changed the way we look at, manipulators. Has changed the way we look at manipulators. Because, you ever read Tom Sawyer? He was a manipulator. Okay. That's his one example under his big topic of
Contribution.
of contributions, okay. It's changed the way, okay, that's his top. Now, this paragraph is going to be about how it has changed, what manipulators are, how Mark Twain fits in there, just in that topic, manipulators. The next topic might be, and Mark Twain has also contributed to American literature by doing something else, okay. If you wanted two things in that first paragraph after the intro, the intros can be 2 or 3 paragraphs long, by the way. Okay, you could say, for instance, Twain's Adventures of Tom Sawyer, and along with, no, I was going to bring another literature piece up. Twain's Adventures of Tom Sawyer has changed the way we think about both the motives of little boys and manipulation of society, or something like that. Then your paragraph has 2 things to deal with. You're gonna have to talk about motives, and you're gonna have to talk about him as a manipulator. You need some good transitions in between those sentences. Does that make sense? It's 2 topics for that paragraph, but it won't work unless you say it in your topic sentence. I'm not saying you do that, I'm just trying to give you an example on my feet. Okay. And then old information to new, Twain taught us, changed the way we think about adolescents' talent at manipulating their friends. That's now old information. We put it down, okay? We're gonna have new information based on this old piece. what would you maybe do? You'd do for example, he did this and this and this, to give an example. Now you've got old information and new information, which becomes old, because you're gonna put new information down. Maybe a specific about what he did in the story. That's what that means. It means development. You have a general statement and you get more specific and more specific and more specific. Each piece is new and becomes old. Does that make sense? No?
So like how many examples should we use to support the topic sentence?
How many?
Yeah, usually.
I don't know. There's not a number
So
on it.
does this matter? Like if we give too many examples, but we didn't develop it in a very deep way. So as you said, the new information is like you should explain something to the sentence.
Right.
Is that?
Develops the sentence before it. Start off with the general one, then you get more specific, that develops that general one. Then you get either on the same specific or get more specific. Old information, pretty soon this one's old information. Then the third one is new information. Then that gets old information because you're gonna join it with the fourth sentence, and it's all gonna join together. Pretty soon you have a whole paragraph from general to specific. As far as how many examples, there would be no number to that. That would be, you'd know, if you put, a whole bunch of examples in a paragraph, it would get a little tedious, and you'd know. You'd take them out, Whatever you need to get it across to the audience. Whatever you're trying to get across. Okay, using stock transitional phrases. In addition, on the other hand, signal your readers, cue your readers, take them with you. That's being reader aware. It's being having well-developed thoughts. It's being concise. Take your reader with you. Using pronouns to refer back to previously introduced information. Recycling what you just said. That's kind of like the old and new information. I want to get to these short, easily understood phrases. Those are the kinds of phrases and clauses you can use to refer back to what you just said. Has anybody ever heard this phrase, in light of? Okay? You say something that means something about your profession, about your point that you want to make. And then you have something that adds to that. But it's only because that first thing exists. The world is round. In light of this information, we know that we're not going to fall off. In light of is a very nice way for your reader to refer back to what you just said. How about clearly? You say something, you're arguing a little bit, and you say something very logical and that makes sense. You can say in the next, clearly then, we can see that my point is correct. It's the clearly then that brings your reader into your point. Ruben?
Does this, how much of this factors into scientific writing? Because I know a lot of the times they'll tell you to take some of that, to maybe touchy, more feeling type words out, so to speak.
That is such an excellent question. Not as much as in a psych paper. That would be my answer, or an English paper, or a language-oriented paper. But sometimes in science writing, you have to make those connections. You don't have a choice. You've summed up something, and to help your reader know that now you're to the summation stage, you've got to use a couple words, but not as much. I don't think. Jonathan, would you have anything to speak to that?
It kind of depends on that subdiscipline of the sciences, but at least from my point of view, some of the best science writing is the stuff that still does this. In other words, by doing this, you're not making it subjective. You're just being a good writer. You're understanding that the information that you have may or may not be difficult, and in order to make your point, you need to make sure that your reader's with you always.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so to me, this applies equally to the more humanities-focused writings and even the hard sciences.
I've heard scientists say, well, actually, where was the guy from that said take out however's?
That was, and that
What
was
was
odd,
he-
it was in social work, so it's a social science.
Social,
but that's
and
odd.
social science, once I heard a faculty member say, take out all that stuff, and we all had great contention with that statement, because we don't want people to tell students that. We want them to learn to lead their readers on. So, I don't know what that was all about.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Anyway, he had some other good ideas too, so I don't know what he did. Okay. What do we wanna do in a paragraph and in a sentence? We're at the sentence level too here. So we wanna identify the character and the action, okay? Start each sentence with a short, easy-to-read phrase or clause, and connect the new information with the old information. It says use transitions as necessary, but I can tell you, just right off the bat, you're gonna be using transitions. Okay, let's start with that first sentence, okay? We're gonna do this one together, and then you're gonna finish up on your own. The power to create and communicate a new message to fit a new experience is not a competence animals have in their natural state. All right? What is a subject in there that can do something? We're gonna think in terms of taking that to be verb is, we're gonna take it out, and we're gonna put some action in this sentence. What do you think?
Animals are unable to use the power to create and communicate a new message in their natural state.
Well, they don't have any power. Nice seeing you again. You're right on track. What is a strong subject in that? The power to create and communicate a new message to fit a new experience is the subject of this sentence. Actually, it's power, but with all that verbiage between what's the subject and the verb, which is, okay, makes this a tedious sentence for a reader. Well, how can we make it act? Put a character in there to do something, and you were right on. How would you, the only thing is that you said, you assume they had power, so.
So a competence that animals do not have in their natural states. Or do you just want to switch it?
Did you just start with animals before? Come on, guys, what do you think? How can you make this a more active sentence? Who can do something in this sentence?
Animals.
Yes.
Animals fail to create and communicate a new message to fit a new experience as humans. Yeah. I just use animals as a subject and then find a verb, strong verb like fail or unable, you know.
You can use are, that's a to be verb, but still. You can use cannot, you can use have, do not have. Okay, what is this sentence saying?
Animals are powerless.
Animals are powerless. How are they powerless? There's a lot of information you don't have in there.
Well,
To communicate?
any of this. It's like,
I don't either, but it's a fact, I didn't know that. It's an interesting fact. Animals can't create or communicate new messages to fit new experiences because they don't have the power to do that. Don't forget, you can start off the sentences with phrases like, in their natural states, comma, animals, there's no one right answer here, there's all kinds of ways to do it. In their natural states, comma, animals cannot communicate or create new messages to fit their new experiences. That's one way. Jonathan, you got anything else? There's all kinds of ways.
What I was saying, yeah, to use a to-be verb, animals are unable to create and communicate new messages to fit their experience.
Animals are unable to create and communicate new messages to fit their experiences. We just took about 20 words out of there probably. Animals are active, they can do something, that's what you want to put in your sentences. Any kind of sentences, any kind of discipline. Make somebody do something. Okay? The rest is yours. See if you can make these sentences active and more interesting. Their genetic code limits the number and kind of messages that they can communicate. Information about distance, direction, source, and richness of pollen info. This one's going to kill you. Information about distance, direction, source, and richness of pollen in flowers constitutes the only information that can be communicated by bees. For example, a limited repertoire of messages delivered in the same way for generation after generation is characteristic of animals of the same species in all significant respects. Can you see where that has to be made more concise and to the point? Get your paper and pencil out and rewrite those, please, so we can share. Can I get into Word on here?
Yeah.
Well, I just would really remember the names. How about you? What did you come up with for the second?
The second one?
Yeah.
And like, because of the genetic code, the number and the kind of messages for their communication are largely limited.
Are what? Are largely limited?
Maybe I don't think, I don't think it's largely.
You don't?
Oh yeah, are limited.
Are limited. Very good. Yeah. Try to stay away from adverbs like largely. Or did you not say that? Did I just hear that?
I said that, but I don't think in this sentence they have that meaning. So maybe I will change the original meaning of this sentence.
Yeah.
But I like to put some adverb into it.
Yeah. Try it, unless you really have to have it, try to stay away from adverbs because they water down. If you say are limited, it's to the point, hitting the nail on the head. And largely, ly adverbs can we think it enhances the word, and often it doesn't. It takes away from the word. So it's, you have to think twice about that. So, sometimes it works, but mostly take it away. Okay, how about you? What'd you come?
For the second.
Yes.
I think it didn't fix for the second sentence because it seems just like clear to me. It doesn't really bother me to understand.
Okay. Ruben, did you do anything with it?
Yeah. I had found it too, but the first one I put down, it was the animal genetic code limits the number and type of information collected. But I'm wrong with the tense there.
Yeah, and you need a they too, because you Pat made it collected, information collected. It's not really clear the animal collects the information. You mean communicated instead of collected?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm tripping, yeah. That makes more sense.
Tony, what'd you do with that?
Well, at first I came up with this sentence. This is because their genetic codes limits the number and the kind of messages animals can communicate. And then as I read through the final sentence, a limited repertoire of the message basically means the number of the messages. So it helps me to kind of connect the final sentence to the second sentence.
The final sentence to the
Yeah.
second sentence.
Yeah.
Okay, what'd you do with that then? He
Well,
connect,
just
did you connect
just what
that?
I'm brainstorming that way because a limited repertoire of messages basically means the number of messages.
Mm-hmm.
And the kind of message, so there are two smaller details in the second sentence, the number and the kind of messages.
Right, good.
So, I just want to brainstorming the way to connect the second sentence and the final sentence together. And, well, my third sentence would be basically the same, but I just reverse the actions and
Good.
and the subject. So to me, this paragraph is kind of it's kind of choppy. First topic sentence, and then a supporting sentence next to it, which is the second sentence, and then the B, for example, is the most specific to support the second sentence, like generic codes, limits, whatever. And then, for example, these can only communicate the information about distance, direction, source, and richness of protein files. So it's kind of
So bees can only communicate,
the information about distance, direction, source, and
okay.
richness.
Would you
Those
start,
kind of
for
more
example?
specific,
Would
yeah.
you start it, for example?
Yeah, for example.
How'd you do? Thanks, Tony.
Which one do you want?
Oh, the whole thing.
Due to their genetic code, the amount and types of messages that they can communicate are limited. For example, the only information communicated by bees is the distance, direction, source, and richness of pollen in flowers. Messages delivered in the same way, generation after generation, is characteristic of animals of the same species.
It's a limited repertoire of messages. That should be our characteristics the way you said it, because you said messages are, right?
Messages delivered in the same way, generation after generation.
Are. Messages is your subject.
Oh, okay.
Messages is plural. Okay, I like that. And the thing is that you guys, you could do anything you wanted to make this paragraph a little less tedious and bring stuff together. Tony's idea about combining the second and the last, they seem to be saying the same thing to me too. So, what did you, let's see, what did you do?
For the second
The whole
sentence,
the whole thing.
the whole so they can communicate more message due to the genetic code.
They can communicate what?
Communicate more message.
More?
Yeah, more message due to the genetic code.
No, the genetic code limits the message. It limits the number.
Yeah, limit the number.
So he
Yeah,
can't say
so-
more, it'd be less.
Yeah, so that's why they cannot communicate.
Oh, cannot communicate.
Get more message due to.
Okay,
their
I see. More wouldn't fit there though, you probably want in, they cannot communicate any messages, or very many messages or something. Cause more is a comparative word, it's something's more than something else. Yeah, so you have to watch using that word. Tony?
Well, I still like the way that I combine the final sentence and the same sentence, and then I just stick to the two supporting details, the number and the kind of messages
Dictate
that
it to
animals
him.
can do. So, and then I will find one more example to support the number.
Yeah.
Because, for example, bees can only communicate the information about distance, so that's the kind of messages that we can communicate. And I would find one more example to support the number of messages that animals can only communicate. So that's
Okay, let me ask you to dictate, see how we made this into an active sentence? Communicated by bees is passive, nobody's doing anything, communicated by bees. However, if you say bees communicate, that's active.
I
All right.
said,
Hmm?
I said bees can communicate through the
example, bees can communicate
Through information.
only, the gist of this sentence is that, that's all they can do. Only, I'm trying to get, to, Tony's, combination sentence. You know, that sounds like a lot to communicate to me. I don't see why they say only. For example, bees can communicate only why don't we say the only information bees can communicate? Would that be better?
Carrie said bees can only communicate through the information. Through information about distance directions.
That's better. For example, bees can only communicate information about distance, direction, source, and richness of pollen in flowers. It's much more active. Okay, Tony, dictate to me how you combine those two.
I'm just thinking, it's,
Here's what I did with this. I think it works, but I haven't actually tested it. Does that work? In their natural states, animals are not able to create and communicate new messages to fit new experiences because their genetic code limits the number and kind of messages they can. How about this one? Look.
Or they can deliver. So the second sentence should be the course of the first one.
And then what about going right for example, how much needed is that second sentence? Now that I have taken it out. Okay. How about, what'd you do with the last one then, anybody? Did you do some kind of connection to it, in the paragraph? I forgot what you read. What did you say?
So, messages delivered in the same way, generation after generation, characteristic of animals of the same species.
Oh, good, you got the real meaning of that sentence.
Oh, yeah?
Messages, I think so, that's how I understand it. Messages delivered in the same way for generation generation are characteristic of, animals of the same species. So, I think that says, limited, you need limited there, though that's the point of the paragraph, yeah. Okay, I think you all have the idea of looking at these sentences and making them active and strong and concise. Okay, and let's go to, can I get back to the PowerPoint? Is that the command tab?
Uh-huh, yep, perfect. Then bottom left to over to the right a little bit. Yep, right there.
Okay. So what we're talking about here is subordinating also. Okay, subordinating means that you want to be always sure that you get your main point in the main sentence, and all the other clauses that surround it and help bring in more information or qualify what you're saying is around it. It's not the main thing. So you have to put, here's a lot of transitions that work. They work in science writing too, a lot of those. If you want to take those down, if you don't, look under transitions and they will give you more than you actually want as far as transitions go. All the transitions are used differently, remember, I mean, you have cause-effect transitions. This happened because this happened. You have contrasting transition. They did this, however, they did that too, contrasting. You have, chronology transitions for time, to flow through time. Although production costs have declined, they are still high. Although production costs are high, they have declined. What are we actually wanting to push to our audience in that first one? What's the important thing? They are still high. That's in the independent clause that can stand by itself. They are still high. Although production costs have declined, cannot stand by itself. It's not a sentence. It's hooked onto a sentence. Then what's the most important thing that we want to know in the second one? What are we stressing? They have declined. That's what we want to stress in the second one. Two entirely different things. So that's where you put your clauses, makes a difference. And when you want to take a little time and put a little more information into a sentence, this is a real nice way to do it. Costs, which include labor and facilities, are difficult to control. And this is a cause and effect because this happens, and there's your main sentence. The soil mixture in individual fields must be monitored. Okay, yeah.
How do you feel about starting sentences with because? I see you did it there, but in general, I mean, I've always grown up, you don't start a sentence with because.
Oh, I see it all the time. It's according to what you're trying to put across. It's according to what if you really want to emphasize because of this, comma, this happened, then go ahead and put it first. You can start sentences with and. You can start sentences with but. It's all legal. We grow up with certain English teachers, and certain English teachers have certain ways of telling us things, and you look in a handbook and it's not really that way. Yeah, that's just a personal preference though. I learned in my master's program that from a professor said never put however at the beginning of a sentence. Never put however at the beginning of a sentence, ever. And he was adamant about it. And so all the way through my dissertation, 5 years, I wrote a 246-page dissertation and never put however at the beginning of a sentence. And it just sometimes really screwed me up. I put it in there. I used it. It's invaluable. And isn't that funny? You just have so much trouble once you get, the muscle memory stays with you in language. Language is so dynamic and you just feel it, it's part of you. So yeah, there's a lot of quirks and things. Okay. Be careful that you are clear about which element you're modifying. Sometimes if you ever hear a teacher say or a reader say, that is a misplaced modifier. In other words, it's in the wrong place. It should be modifying this word down here, not this word up here. Be very careful about that because you can really screw up your meaning when you write. After reaching northern Alaska or the Arctic islands, breeding occurs in the lowlands. Well, number one, the big thing is obviously, who's breeding? Who reached northern Alaska? It's not modifying anything, really. After reaching northern Alaska or the Arctic islands, the swans breed in the lowlands. Did you ever hear of a dangling modifier? Yeah. What is it? Do you know? Remember?
Well, it doesn't complete the sentence.
Well, it means that the clause usually at the beginning, not always, but at the beginning, relates to the wrong thing in the main sentence. Okay? Here's an example. Running down the road, his nose was red and cold. It implies what? Running down the road, his nose was red and cold. That his nose was running down the street. All right? Running down the road, he found that his nose was really cold or whatever, but it's he that was running down. That's a dangling modifier. They happen all the time, and they can be very confusing to readers. Yeah. Okay, parallelism. Be sure that the grammatical structure of when you list things, they're all in the same grammatical. They all take on the same grammatical structure. Here is a pretty good, I don't know, complex thing, but the valving improvements we seek will increase reliability, accessibility, and maintenance, and allow application to all sizes of valves. Okay, that is a really, really messy sentence because it has a list. It does this, and this. All those things have to be in the same grammatical form. So, the valving improvements we seek will increase reliability and accessibility, decrease maintenance, and allow application. See, they're all in the same grammatical form. You don't have to use verbs. You can use whatever you want. This one's using verbs, all the same. Okay. How long does this last?
4:30.
What time is it?
4:12.
Okay, I have two different things for you now. We won't have time to do both of them. One of them is a paragraph from a student of mine who revised his paragraph, and it was such a good revision that I thought I'd bring it and show it to you because it has exactly to do with topic sentences and examples. Or we can have you rewrite these sentences. Which would you rather tackle? The first one, the paragraphing, or do you want to try these sentences? All right. Okay, I got to open up that other part, which means get onto desktop.
Yeah, for the state.
This one.
Not yet, at the bottom of that presentation.
It's that way. Okay, this is paragraph. This is a good example of paragraphing gone awry, gone wrong a little bit. And this is the old one. This is before revision. He introduces, the assignment was to do a synthesis, which means taking more than one author and compare their messages and how they interrelate. Okay? The topic here was how Germaine Greer and Margaret Mead handle the concept of masculinity. If you know Margaret Mead, she was an anthropologist, did a lot of work with tribes. Germaine Greer is a feminist who's done a lot of writing, lots and lots of writing on the gender, the sex differences. Okay, he opened it up with a little introduction about Germaine Greer and Mead. And then he went to this paragraph. Now I'm going to show you how long this paragraph is. He starts it off with, throughout Greer's essay, I'm going to read this whole thing, so just follow with me. Throughout Greer's essay, she mentions qualities embedded within masculinity like self-confidence, aggressiveness, and fierceness. The Western-style culture that embodies this idea has always assigned men to hold that power role. This is a strong thing in this paragraph because this writer always points back to the old information that he just mentioned. That power role, not any power role, but that power role that he just mentioned, aggressiveness, fierceness, okay? So if you can learn how to they're called indexicals, but they're pointers. You know, they point to particular things. So just a the wouldn't do it in this one. While most men seek that responsibility, some men cannot provide the strength and assertiveness to gain approval from their peers, resorting to other qualities like humor and intelligence. Greer says a masculine man's attention is focused upon his role in the various groups to which he belongs and from which he gains verification of self-worth. Same paragraph. Greer is saying how men strive to fit in with their peers, willing to do almost anything to gain that assurance. You see how he talked about what Greer, he put a direct quote from Greer, all right, and then he interpreted the quote. He told his reader that he's interpreting the quote. There are many, many times that you guys will have to do that, I think, when you're writing your academic papers. This determination and strive that men put on one another's shoulders is what strengthens and benefits society. I don't believe there is such a word as strive as a noun. Okay? In contrast to Greer's ideas, though, all right, what's he doing here? He's taking us to a new idea using a transitional phrase. In contrast to Greer's ideas, though, Mead talks about how some men and women switch roles within different civilizations. She mentions the Arapash tribe, where men are seen to have more of a connection with femininity, and the Mundugamor people, where women are the aggressors within the tribe. Mead goes on to say that culture is the ultimate of defining factors, that should be factors, when it comes to gender roles. Our Western culture is so adapted to our assigned roles, we are blind to any other ideas. Same paragraph. Going back to Greer, nice transition, right?